to Taboo.
Hey everybody, you're all very welcome to the latest episode of Revenue Hacks with myself, Khristina Quigley, in association with Raise Up. I am super excited because we are announcing big news today here at Revenue Hacks HQ. But before we kick off with that, let's go to my favorite guys on screen, Thibault.
It's me, the favorite guy, so Kevin. So my name is okay, guys. Sorry. so my name is Thibault. I'm the founder and managing director of Catala Consulting. We are revenue management company services that look after hotels across Europe. And happy to be in the middle of you two today.
It's a sandwich. I wish I put C as my first name today because it would have been a C sandwich. Okay. Calvin.
I'm Calvin Tilokee, CEO of Revpar Media. You guys may know me as the star of hotel memes at Rev Problems. And what I do is take that creativity and revenue strategy to show hotels how to maximize their social media presence.
I love it. Calvin, first of all, before we kick on to today's topic and the big news, what is going on with your hoodie? I love it. It'll wash.
It'll wash. Well, this is my favorite saying. I've become known for this throughout my career and also on Instagram. And it's getting a little chilly in Los Angeles these days. You know, we've dipped below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's sweater weather. It's hoodie season. And
I love it.
You know, I'll be shameless. You can get these on revproblems.com. You know, if anybody wants one.
I think Thibault's just a little bit jealous. He didn't think of getting a hoodie ready for this at all.
I am. I wanted to, but yeah, I'm looking forward.
Well, obviously today we were talking about apps. We were talking about the amount of apps that are out there right now. Whether it's on your phone, if it's on your tablet, it's on your laptop, there's an app for pretty much everything. So we're talking about apps and hospitality today, and I can't wait to have a chat with the guys about this. But before we do, we at Revenue Hacks have some huge news. We are doing a live show. Imagine we are all going to come together. Calvin will be virtually, unfortunately, but we are all going to come together on the 3rd of November at WTM this year. So if you're going to be attending WTM, make sure you sign up to Raise Up, log on to the website and actually sign up so that you can get notified when the tickets are going up, what the situation is, where we're going to be, and how it's going to happen. We're doing a full live show. We're doing a hybrid show. So we're going to have Calvin live in LA. Thibault is going to be in London. I'm going to be in London, and then we're going to have this unique hackathon session about hospitality. We are following on from next week's episode, so make sure you tune in to next week's episode, which is the human behind hospitality with the most amazing person in the world, Deirdre Kern. And we are so excited about this. This has been something in the works, so huge thanks to Erica, to Rita, to Tom, to everybody who's working really hard in the background to bring this to the forefront. And we can't wait to see everybody in London in 3 weeks' time. Just imagine. I'm so excited. It's huge news. And, you know, for a lot of us, it's going to be the first event we've all come together. So I am so excited about that. So let's kick off today's show. We are talking about apps, because we have apps for everything. Sometimes the apps don't match with everything. So, you know, I recently changed phones last week and I've got nearly 400 apps. And I was like, what? Now I've taken off the majority of the Apple apps because I bought an iPhone, but I'm an Android lover. So I've changed everything to kind of suit what I like, creature habit. But when it comes to hospitality tech, can we really expect our customers to download so many different apps to be able to operate doors, TVs, ordering? Guys, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I can start with this one. I actually just stayed at a resort this past weekend, and they have an app for the resort. So when you download this app, you can see everything you need from, you know, dining, services, whatever you need. So for me, and listen, I say this, I'm an extrovert and I enjoy people, but if you give me an app where I can just order room service and never have to talk to anybody, I'm doing it, you know? And then at the same time, they also had the Google Cast where you could just open up, you know, anything on your phone. So if you've got your Netflix, Hulu, whatever it is you want to watch, and just cast it to the TV, it's amazing, you know? So I honestly think certain apps, I guess, are pretty cool, pretty necessary at this point. For me to stay at a hotel that wouldn't have like a Chromecast at this point and, you know, pay $25 for a movie, is outdated. I think to be able to keep up with your favorite shows and these type of things and watch what you want, YouTube TV, whatever it is you have, and cast, I think is pretty critical.
I think, in my opinion, it depends, because from a hotel perspective, to have different apps that does different purposes and different tasks, I'm okay with this. But from the guest perspective, I think we need to combine and make the experience as smooth as possible. So I will say, like, the minimum is better for a guest, but for hotel, I wouldn't mind have a bit more.
How do we change this? How do we work this into the whole guest experience? Because as you can imagine, we as guests go and stay in multiple brands across multiple platforms, not just independent properties, but each hotel has, mobile keys. You have to download an app to be able to order food through a QR code or whatever. So how do we bring this all into one seamless tech experience for the guest? And I really wish Julie Grieve was actually able to join Sticks. I can pretty certain see Julie hopping on the chat at some point over it. But how do we bring this all together for the guest? Because it is a lot to download. And again, a lot of people who are just not into downloading as many apps won't want to have all these apps on their phone.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I mean, I'll be honest. I've never used a mobile key. That sounds weird. I've honestly never done it. So I've never used that kind of technology. I can certainly see the benefit if there was something where you could use that type of technology for any hotel. So for example, if there was one app that was called Mobile Key, but no matter what hotel you stayed at, they could upload your key to that one app. I could certainly see the benefit in that. But I think the negative, and probably why it wouldn't happen, is each property would want their own branding, right? On that kind of stuff. So when you're staying at a certain, hotel brand, they're going to want you to use their app and have that on your phone. So I mean, if we could get even down the line as far as information, right? Is we're all revenue managers here. This is where you can get information from people from where they are, how many times they stay, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to want that all tracked through your software and your app. So I certainly see from the customer perspective where that would be beneficial. I just don't see it happening realistically.
I feel as well that most of the customers don't like to download an app for a stay. They prefer to use like a browser access or anything, but to download the app on your personal phone itself, I don't feel a lot of people are keen on doing this. So finding an alternative around it could be a better alternative, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think it's about, amalgamating everything. I think that's why Apple have come out with their own mobile key kind of variation, or app built-in variation, for the next year or so. It was announced last year when they bought out the AirTags that they were going into mobile key as well. And I think there's a lot of hospitality companies that are waiting for Apple to come out with this in particular. The company I work with deals with a lot of technology and specialize in white labeling some sort of technology as well. But a lot of the key players in door locks, for instance, are now doing white labels or doing some sort of work with brands. But then the question is, should brands like the likes of Marriott, IHG, Hilton, everyone, just have one unique customer journey experience on the app, be it for a loyalty guest or a new user that you download, and then in each hotel it's very seamless? And that's where the brands, I think, will struggle with a lot of franchisees, especially the branded channels that would not be as strict when it comes to compliance with a different tech vendor. So that, I think, is the difficult side of things when it comes to it. We just seen a comment there. I used mobile to access my room before. Had to do a bit of a dance to get the reader on the door to do its thing. I think that's me with Face ID on a regular day. I could tell you for sure. But that also brings down to, this whole, can you access using a QR code? Is it going to be using a key card? What happens if your phone dies? Now, I love the whole idea of digital technology. I really and truly do. I love the whole seamless integration. And I really love the products that different companies offer. However, there is that, and it's actually safer in my eyes, but there is that, 10% chance that you're going to lose your phone or your battery will die.
The internet and Wi-Fi access as well, which is a big thing. For international guests who are traveling and they don't want to have the roaming activated, for example, or you're totally dependent on the Wi-Fi. So if the Wi-Fi of the hotel, for example, is down, then all the rooms are locked. So that's a bit complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way you touch on that, but recently that's happening a lot more because a lot of people don't have a second ISP provider for this. And that's where hotels need to also be trained, is that, for instance, in France, Orange F4 went down recently and no one had ever access to anything, be it a cloud solution, be it, keys, anything to do with being able to order till systems. That's where hotels need to educate themselves, get a second ISP line in as a backup, always have a backup. Calvin, you were going to say something, sorry.
No, what I was really getting into, actually, I got distracted now by Luca's comment, because I think this is real life here. We talk a lot about tech on the show, and one of the biggest issue is this ROI, right? Everybody wants the immediate ROI, and this is why we're so behind in this industry in tech, because nobody wants to spend the money, and if they do spend the money, it's like, well, how many bodies can we cut, right? And so it's just not the right mindset around it. I think we got too many dinosaurs in leadership positions in this industry. That's why we're behind, and we're going to be. It's not going to change anytime soon. Unfortunately, we got to wait for some natural filtration to happen. What I was going to say is, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. There was a client I was working with, over the past year, as a prospect, and this is a hotel brand that really is positioning themselves as tech forward. Everything is on the app, and you don't even need to stop by the front desk when you check in. So I tested it out. I sent the message through the app. It took a full day to get the response. And then when I got the response was, call the hotel.
I hate that. And that's what really frustrates me, especially, these automatic the automatic messages on Facebook and social media. This chatbot is not mandated, or it's not being manned at this hour. Please contact the hotel directly, or please note we don't actually reply to private messages. Why have it on then? Why expect your guests to communicate, especially in a world now where all your guests communicate on a regular basis? And that is so important. Calvin, you really mentioned the dinosaurs in the industry. That has a huge impact in regards to the tech adoption, for sure. We've seen hotel managers, GMs, operations teams who've only ever worked with one system, either through education or from their first property sites, only use them systems the whole way through. And they believe that system is the creme de la creme. And I know we all know what system I'm talking about, but that is not the case. There is so many other systems out there, but their judgment is completely clouded because it's all they know. And that's where we're covering as well next week, because that has a huge impact in regards to hospitality in general, the hiring, the staff, the morale. But, how long will it take for these dinosaurs to go? That is the question that we're now facing.
No, I'm going to disagree and agree at the same time with what you're saying, because as well, there is different type of clientele, and some type of client actually resistant to technology and to change. I know some clients who are going to ask at reservation, saying like, do you have an Echo or like Amazon Echo in your room? And if you answer yes, they say, okay, I'm not staying with you. So I know that some people are actually quite resistant to technology, and the less you have, the better. But some of them are actually more advanced, and they will choose to have, and they would like to have this kind of customer interaction with the hotels and have the apps and everything. But I believe we need to find the right balance between having technology for some type of guest and having an alternative from the others. And this way, you can drive the most optimal demands. But I will not say like go full blast on tech and with a full blast on apps, or full blast on no Wi-Fi, nothing. I think we need to find the right balance between both.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think this is where tech consultants come in, though, and this is where proper listening and looking at from the guest perspective, but also the hotel's perspective, really plays a huge part. You're not looking and mirroring yourself on what your competitors are doing or what your sister hotels are doing or what other friends are doing. You need to look at your property as a unique property and find the best way forward for that. Because again, not one shoe fits all. And that's something we've been saying for a very long time on Revenue Hacks. A strategy that you apply today may not suit your sister property, which may be next door or even 10 feet away. And I definitely think that's something that as technologists, we need to address. And, this brings back as well down to the people who sell the technology. We've always said it on Revenue Hacks, sexy tech is huge, where it sounds amazing, looks amazing in a demo, but then when you actually apply it in a real life environment, well, that's a different story completely. And as salespeople, we need to be a lot more honest. I do think that we are now in a very transparent world with hospitality. And I do think people want that transparency and actually want you to be honest, saying, look, you only have a 40-bedroom hotel. I don't think putting this CRM, it's going to be right for you. But what we can do is we can help you tailor something, work with you on a different solution, because, there's a lot more respect for people for that. For sure, when it comes to that. I think what's really interesting is Larry has just come in there as well, saying chatbots and apps can be managed better. I've seen messages not being responded for hours.
Yeah,
that was one of my points. Like I've been fighting with chatbots a lot. Okay, you talk and it's like I don't understand. Can you repeat? So can you reformulate it differently? You repeat it and they're like, I still don't understand. And after 10 times, I said, okay, I'm going to transfer you to someone and you're going to repeat again what you wanted. So it can be quite frustrating.
Right.
I've been having it out with the Samsung bot last week, and I literally was about to throw my tablet and everything out. So that's also why I swapped to Apple. I was just like, I'm done.
The voice would say like, please tell your problem in a nice voice, and then we'll forward you to a corresponding person. With my accent, it's nearly impossible to talk to the voice technology and to recognize what I'm saying. So yeah, I think we need to find the balance again.
Yeah, this is actually something I've been posting about recently with the responses. It's, obviously coming from the angle of social media, but when somebody DMs you on your social media, they expect a response within an hour. I think the average response time is about 5 hours. So there's a huge disconnect between guest expectation and what we're able to deliver. So you got to be able to, if you're going to do it right, is really what it comes down to. If you're going down this route of chatbots and apps and automation, make sure that it's monitored. Make sure you're hiring somebody to look at that, or you have a system in place, because to everything you guys have been saying, if you're going to put it out there as an option, it better work. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's better to not have it and just have people call you and just go the old school route. It's better to do that and not disappoint than say, hey, here's an app and you can get immediate responses, and it takes a day.
I know, and this actually brings back to the whole, the customer journey. We've become accustomed now to talking to chatbots, to doing messaging, inboxing, rather than picking up the phone and calling people. So, we're now in that time and space again where you need to get back to your customers. I remember when I was working in Best Western Hotels and Resorts, and we were really focused on driving customer acquisition, driving customer care, and especially when it came to, the likes of Medallia responses, TripAdvisor responses, anything like that. You need to go back in a timely fashion. There's no point doing a bulk upload once a week. That's just ridiculous. And you're only, as Calvin said, frustrating your customers if you don't go back to them right away, because they have to find an alternative way to contact you. And that's probably calling your hotel, where they probably have a 10-minute wait for someone to answer the phone. And that's after listening to dial 1, dial 2, dial 3, and it's just so frustrating as a customer. You're going to lose that customer because they're just going to go next door with this better conversation.
Yeah. Actually, sometimes it's actually calling guests make a big difference, because I were not expecting for you to call them. Or the same with letters, writing like a letters or like postcard and so on, which is very old school, but makes such a difference because not many hotels are doing it. So that's what I'm saying again. Technology, yes, for the right person, but sometimes the old school model works as well and make a difference, because as you mentioned, Calvin, I'm quite sure getting out of this kind of noise around it and make something different will make total difference in your hotel.
No, that's a great point, and yes, she just reminded me of an example. It's something I always say. I mean, we do need to be more tech forward, but this business is and always will be about people and that personal connection. I went to a restaurant yesterday for my birthday, and before
what?
Happy birthday!
Yes, it was yesterday. Thank you, thank you very much. But before the waitress took the order, she came out with a little envelope for me. She said, "Oh, this is from us as the staff." And I opened it up, and the entire wait staff had signed it and said, "Happy birthday." You know what I mean? That's like a nice personal touch that you just to your point, Thibault. Like those things will always have a place. That's not something you'll easily forget, because who does that? What business, what hotel, what restaurant really goes out of their way to sign a card for you, and that's, I've just wanted to reinforce your point.
I think as well, I think if you have a general manager or sales manager or front office manager who writes letters, types them up, loses the appeal. I personally think it's always that nice little bit. And I remember working in Clarion Group for many years, and Clarion Group were a huge advocate of that, putting in, that little personalized card that says, "Welcome to the hotel. We're delighted you've come and stay here." Now I can't write, so it's terrible. I actually have to be writing recently, and I was like, how do I do this? How do I use a pen? But I do think it's that personalized touch. Calvin, we're getting lots of happy birthdays in for you.
Thank you all very much. Yes, I see it. I
can't believe you kept that quiet. Oh my God.
For your 21st birthday? Yeah.
Yeah, not with this gray. 21 was a long time ago. So this is experience and a lot of budgets.
I love it. Well, actually, that's another thing, because obviously we're talking about apps and we're talking about technology. Guys, especially Thibault, because you're working with hotels right now. You are actually physically working in a hotel as well. Are you structuring a lot of revenue into CapEx budgets for next year and OpEx budgets when it comes to actually doing digital transformation? I hate that word. Or digital upgrades?
I think digitalization is it's a key focus for a lot of hotels nowadays, to gain in efficiency and to make sure everything is connected to each other. So yes, we allocate some budget to make sure we optimize the tech stack for next year, for sure. Now we just need to make sure we look at, going back to what you were saying, at a good ROI of each system. So that's why the RFP process and the selection takes a bit longer, because we want to make sure we select the right one for the right efficiency and the right return on investment. Okay, but yeah, for sure, there's a lot of digitization nowadays. Not only to it's not to replace anyone or to replace staff and to reduce headcounts. It's more to extend the team with the technology and to give them the tools to extend the work and spend more time with the guest and everything. So again, when we are saying like there are too many apps or too many systems for this, for that, I agree and I disagree, because you need to make sure the apps have a function and they are solving a problem. Now, if you have, and you want to make sure you have the tech to support your day-to-day and to gain more time doing something else. Now, if you have a lot of apps and you spend more time on managing the apps, it's counterproductive. And I will not go this way. So find the real purposes and the real problems that are solving, and look at if you spend more time on it or if you spend less time on it. I think that's very important when you decide if you want to go on those tech stack or not, and if you have too many apps or not. Look as well at how much time you allocate to the management of those apps.
Would you recommend to hotels, especially independents, to actually look at pulling in all the apps that they have in place? So looking at them and trying to get a partner that can actually sync everything in together to make one personalized hotel app where everything syncs in through SDKs and it can work perfectly fine.
That's a very good question, because I'm not sure if I like the solution which are all in one. Because sometimes I think like it's the same when you go to a restaurant which is specialized in pick and duck, or like specialized in I don't know, like cheese fondue. They do one dish very well, but like they're expert in this dish. If you go to all general food, you have a bit of everything, which is true, but it's all rubbish.
You're making me think of that's the Cheesecake Factory here in the States. Yeah, you can get everything. None of it's great, but you can get anything you want.
I didn't want to say that out loud. I actually hate the Cheesecake Factory. So.
But I agree. I fully agree. So meaning like the all-in-one solution, sometimes they're great because it's integrated and so on. However, sometimes they do a bit of everything, but they are not focused on anything. So I would love to have those kind of specialized and expert application on all the tasks that I want to solve, rather than a big one that does a bit of everything but not much. Now, in an ideal world, I would love to have all those kind of experts together in one common solution, and that would be amazing. However, at the moment, there are some, but not a lot.
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to branding. So, obviously the chains all have their own brand and they have their own app, and they're trying to integrate everything that's possible into it right now, be it from QR codes to keys. It's interesting to hear your opinion on it, Thibault, because brands believe that it's the right thing to do is have everything in kind of one-stop shop for the customer. We did see a comment just come in there saying obtaining guest feedback is key too. We might think it's great, but the guests might hate the solution. Which is true as well. I think what's interesting is that there's so many different apps out there. There's so many different products and solutions online that you're able to actually do from mobile check-in the whole way through checking out and paying for your product. But it's how hotels adopt the technology and market it to the customer. And that's the hardest part, because when you're sending email confirmations to the guest, who's going to see that you're supposed to download it unless you put in the physical little image of the Apple Store and the Google Store to be able to download these apps? And then you're trying to encourage them to do it, because a lot of people are still skeptical about sharing data or inputting any sort of information in there. So, does anyone have an idea on how we should actually approach this properly when it comes to mentioning it to our guests, or even getting the guests' feedback on, do you want to have digital technology in your hotel as you're going through?
I have one of the best example, because I'm traveling with British Airways nowadays, and they've forced us to download this app called Verifly, which is
my God. Did you have the same problems I've probably had with Verifly?
Yes. So that's why I see like technology is important, and you want to push this technology to guests out there, but the guest feedback is rubbish. And if you don't select the right application in line with your clients, then actually it will backfire, because people will say, okay, what are you doing, British Airways? You guys are rubbish because you are forcing us to download this, and this app is completely rubbish for what it is. So if you look at the reviews online, and not only for this specific app, but for British Airways, because it starts to backfire on them as well. You need to be careful and making sure you listen to what people are saying in your section of technology as well.
Well, what's interesting about the Verifly app is that it didn't even work. I didn't even need it, but I was told I had to download it and put the information in. For going to the UK, couldn't get my boarding card into it, but then coming back, it was fine. And it wasn't in the text for anyone, because I actually seen Kira Crossan, who runs weddingdates.ie, had the same issue. And so many people going to the Independent Hotel Show last week, or 2 weeks ago. It's like, seriously, come on. I think Andrew is spot on there. We all know how well people read the confirmation emails, and that is a tricky situation. How are you going to get your guest feedback then when it comes to being able to find out what is the best way of implementing these digital strategies for your hotel? Is it that a hotel wants, an app, or is it a guest just wants to be able to do a mobile check-in using a key? We're seeing a huge adoption in the UK of mobile check-in right now, especially key solutions, which I think is really interesting. I've been speaking to a lot of independent hotels over the last few weeks that really want to adopt this technology. However, there is a question on what do they do with it? How do they communicate it to their guests? And that seems to be the biggest issue that they have. And even the brands aren't really 100% consistent when it comes to marketing this technology. It's there. Everyone rushed to get mobile key and online check-in last year, or online payment processes last year, but no one really recommended or actually pushed it in a proper way to the clients. We've seen it on LinkedIn from Hilton, from Marriott, saying we now offer this touchless solution, but they never mentioned you have to download an app, or they never mentioned, you needed to do X, Y, and Z when it comes to it. And I think that is huge. But, again, a question for the audience: are we on the verge of way too many apps? Open up your phone right now. Look at how many apps you have. I'm one of these weirdos. I don't even have gaming apps. I don't, but I have all my apps into folders. And I do, because I can't look at them
people. No, so do I. That's why I'm laughing. You could,
I actually genuinely freak out when I look at it.
Organized.
My front screen, you can't actually see it. My front screen is blank, right?
I have the same.
Then when you go into the actual thing, it's all folders. Everything is folder.
Yep.
I think I've read an article like a few years ago, and I find it still relevant today. You have to make your phone works for you, and not your phone or you work for the phone. Right. So meaning like you have to use your phone when you want to use it, not when the phone wants you to use it. You see what I mean? Yeah. And that's very important when you look at your apps, your notification. Remove any type of notification, because if not, it will still popping up every time. Make sure your phone works for you and not the reverse.
Yeah, that's huge, and I think that's a whole other conversation. When the Social Dilemma came out, was about a year ago, that I really started to pay attention, because I personally have 4 different brands just for myself, right? So sometimes I'll reshare things across my different platforms, and hours later I'll get notifications that, oh, Revpar Media just shared a post. Like, I did that 4 hours ago, right? But it's constantly trying to pull you back into the app and constantly trying to pull you back into the phone. And you really just got to be aware of that, So that's a great point. I did want to jump back to what we were talking about before, as far as like how to integrate these things and make it an option, or to see if your guests really want this stuff. But one hotel I worked at a while back, what we did kind of like a soft rollout of these rooms that were, I'll just, for lack of a better term, I'll just say eco-friendly. So they had the lamps in there that kind of mimic the sunrise, and noise, like a noise machine, like a sleep machine, and these different types of things. But you didn't just roll that out into all the rooms, right? So we did a certain section of the hotel, and we hand selected a few VIPs when they were checking in, and offered it to them. This is one of our eco-friendly rooms. Would you like to try it? Yes, no. Just give us a feedback tomorrow when you check out. So that could be a way to start. If there's things you want to test out, just pick your regular guests, people that give you feedback, and people that that are constantly at your hotel that you would trust to give you honest feedback on what it is.
How do we do that in a time where all our regular guests aren't here anymore? And that is, they're slowly starting to come back, and that's something that's really interesting and really cool.
I think the point of Calvin is very important. Even the big brands, but you can do it as well in your hotel. Making sure to pilot in a very small demographic or very small hotel. Like, for example, when IG, when they roll out a new program or new system, they do a pilot with a small number of hotels or clients. Mm-hmm. And then if it's successful, they extend a bit more, and then a bit more, and then until the big one. Because if you extend from day one to everyone and it's a mess, it's a big mess, not a small mess. So you have to be careful. Right. So any new technology, any new app, do some step-by-step pilot test. Is working, I continue, is working, and so on. And you will see exactly, you will balance those kind of things.
Yeah, and also it should be optional, right? For example, the hotel I stayed at, I mentioned I used the app. Nobody told you had to download it. They just give you the information to check in and say this is an option if you want to. And there was a point where I was trying to order room service and it wasn't working. Then I called in-room dining and it was on hold. So I called the front desk, and they did what they should do. They took the order and they made it happen, right? So number one, it's optional, but number two, that personal, that human touch, you need to be responsive, and it's still hospitality. That at the end of the day, you can't just say, well, hey, go back and use the app. It'll be up in 15 minutes. You still have to execute like we're supposed to.
But that's what happened during the pandemic. And even right now, it's still the same thing. A lot of restaurants are now using the QR code, and you have to do ordering through the QR code. And it's kind of a standard thing. And it's very frustrating when you sit down and you have to scan the QR code, and you have to go and you have to, I think this is hilarious, by the way, when you have to scan the QR code, you have to actually download the app to go and do it again. It's just so frustrating, because then you're putting in your personal details to be able to do it. So you have to put in your email address, and you have to put in, it's a constant minefield. And you're right with the piloting. I'm piloting a lot of different projects right now with a lot of different companies, and Radisson is one of them. And, it's really interesting to see how they look at things from their perspective when it comes to trialing. I've been very lucky to work with a lot of brands over the years. Some people just roll a lot of things out right away, and then other ones bring it on a stage-by-stage basis. And I think that's what hotels need to do. But they also need to really look at their information. Like, as Abe just said, keep it simple. I'm not going to say the other word. Too many apps teach or tech will just hinder the progress, which is very, very true. And I think we all need to start looking at everything that we have and saying, right, how many times has it been used? And that's the interesting thing about these things like digital technology, especially like the mobile check-in. How many times has the keys been actually activated? How many times have people checked in with the QR code? How many times have people actually done an online check-in through the kiosk, so that they can actually understand what is the proper ROI on this? Because sometimes people put in the tech and just forget about it. I've seen this so many times with different online kiosks that would have been around for maybe 5 years before this with a cloud PMS. It was never used. They actually swapped the PMS out just to get rid of the stand in a hotel here in Dublin. I remember just laughing at that. But, for me, I think if you're going to encourage guests to download the app at check-in, you should actually have like a scan a QR code, have your reception team first on what to say. And, simplify it for the guest. The guest shouldn't have to put in their email address every time they try to download the app. They shouldn't have to register. It should be quite seamless when it comes to it. Put in your room number, because it should already integrate with your hotel system. So once they put in the room number, the information is there, and off they go. Because there's nothing more frustrating than when you're trying to set up an app and you're just constantly loading in your details. Ken Patel has just dropped in, who I know is going to have 1,000,001 things to say. So, hey, Ken. Ken, we're very interested to hear, so please pop your information in the comments about what you think about too many apps, because you are the guy behind EV Hotel technology. You know, you really want to be able to push apps, information, and tech to your clients. So, you know, I think it should be very simple when it comes to it. I think what's interesting is Lego in New York have opened a brand new property, Merlin Entertainments, and they actually have a full digital technology suite within there. And 95% of their check-ins are already online tech adoptions. That is just crazy. But then Lego and Merlin have this really unique app that's actually able to do everything from the get-go. You're able to order everything through the TV and through the phone and whatever. But I think the more you educate your customers on it, the better it is, because what they do is they send you an email, obviously, when you book a room, and they actually tell you, you know, you'll get another email a few weeks prior to prompt you to check in. Maybe about 2 weeks prior, they'll send you an email saying, look, you can check in, you can pick your room, you can do everything right now. And then they'll do the same thing again 7 days and 3 days in advance if you haven't done that. If you actually get to the hotel and you haven't done it, there's only one person that will actually do it, but you have to do everything yourself. So it's almost like a guest service manager that's kind of walking around like a hybrid role. They don't actually have a physical check-in desk. It is all online kiosks. And I like the idea of that, because I think it just makes it safer for people. However, you do have that small percent of people who want to have that full welcome, want to have that full personal touch. And that's the issue where I think hotels break down in that communication. Again, it's about the delivery, it's about the timing, the response, and how you deal with it. And I think for sure, hotels do need to know the demographics they're dealing with, because again, you know, I know I'll have loads of apps, that's fine. But I know my husband, who's like a DP specialist, he wouldn't even download an app sometimes, you know. It is. So that's the type of people. There's conspiracy people out there who believe everything is tracking them.
Yeah.
No comment.
No, but okay. So you have the conspiration around the tech and so on, but you also have some company compliance team refuse to work with certain type of apps because their phone or like the device are not compliant with this kind of, or the app is not compliant with the direction of the company. So I understand, like for example, I know some banks and so on who are not using Google Meet, and they're only used with Skype or Zoom, for example. So I know it could as well come from the compliance team of the corporate clientele as well.
I think Ken has hit the nail on the head there when it comes down to training in the industry. God, I can't even talk right now. So, you know, it is a training exercise as well. There's a lot of times where people install all these tech and they're not trained on it. Or the person who actually done the installation is no longer with the company, and then it needs to be trained. So I think it is down to a huge pull of resources and actually educating people on how to use the technology, utilize the technology, but also showcase to the guest how smart it is. Having these little 15-second videos are really, really cool on how to download the app, install the app, and what the app will do for you, for your customer. You can just even pop that in the comments when you're actually sending them their confirmation, and it can automatically play. That's the magical of technology now. You're actually able to do all these autoplay videos and everything. And I do think it showcases it, and using your social media as well to leverage, to find out what your guest wants, but also show them the changes you've made to make it safer for them, or just like home, because that's what people want. They want a home away from home. I'm not going to lie, you know, we actually stayed in a hotel 2 weeks ago for an event in Galway, and we were all stumped. We had to use the switches on the wall. We don't turn on and off light switches in this house. It's all, Google gets an absolute abuse in my house from like not turning on the lights. But you know, again, there's an app for that. So we actually were like, oh my God, we have to turn the switches on. And you actually had to put the key card in for it to work as well. So it was like going back, the Wi-Fi wasn't great. So again, you're going back, and that's a huge piece that we did touch on at the start. People are going away now. They kind of want that home away from home. They want that bit of luxury if they're going into a luxury property, but then they want, you know, if they go into a lifestyle brand, they want that cool urban chic feel. And if you can't deliver that to the customer, and you've got an app for everything to do it, well, then you're just miles behind.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all. There's nothing really to add to that. You gotta, yeah. I got nothing.
I'm not one of the Jurassic people in hospitality. Just putting it out there, yeah.
I will comment. Sorry. I will comment real quick on Ken's point. Training is an issue in the industry. Period. and that's something, you tease for next week. That'll be a huge part of what we discuss as far as hiring and all that stuff. I mean, if you don't train people, they're not going to stick around. So
I agree. And then the training part, the awareness of those new technology and how to use them and why. Actually, that's a very good point. Look back at the purpose and explain the purpose of why they need to download this app or why we should use this technology and so on. If you clarify the why with your staff and the guests as well, I think you can actually move forward a lot faster on those kind of implementation. And then another important topic, which I forgot to mention, and that's we can open discussion on this one, is the number of apps the same when it comes to different level of services? Like, are you expect many apps in budget hotels and low apps in very luxury hotels when you have more interaction face to face or with some staff? Do you think like the number of apps is in correlation or not with the level of stars and service level that you have in your different hotels?
I actually think that budget hotels are more receptive to apps because they don't want to have as much interaction with the customer. Sometimes I think luxury is all about having interaction with that customer. And I've seen a tech adoption with luxury properties and luxury partners. However, a lot of them still want to keep that check-in process, keep a lot of the face-to-face process, because that is what's unique about luxury. There's pretty much 1.2 staff members for every guest in some cases. And I definitely think that that's where it really needs to come front. I think there needs to be a balance for sure. And I think you can't let the technology do everything. And I think that's something that a lot of people have become accustomed to, as well as that. I can't really talk, but technology does everything for them. And they lose that whole having a conversation with someone.
They're lazy. You can say they're lazy.
Well, it's not lazy, but they've lost that in touch with people. And we're seeing that with kids. Kids now, they're so used to having their tablets, their iPods, their phones, their everything. Like back to the hotel, my daughter, she actually sat down on her phone chatting to her friends. She didn't even engage in conversation with us. You asked her, did she want a drink? You just got a look saying, yeah. And then that was it, and as a child, whenever she got in the back of the car, if there was no Wi-Fi, she'd be like, there's something wrong with the car. Why is there no Wi-Fi? You're like, I think people have forgotten how to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think we as hoteliers need to also really engage a lot more with people, because that's what we're known for within our industry. It's not just our amazing hotels, the technology we bring, it's the engagement. And our staff need to be, and that's the problem that we have, and that's why we're talking about it next week as well on Revenue Hacks, is the staff engagement and how they're treated, and I think hospitality in general, although it's amazing, I do think we've kind of lost that spark because of the pandemic, but that is just something that we can fix. There is ways around that. We'll touch on it next week and again at the WTM live event, because that is what's important. We need to go back in a way to basics, but go back to that smiling, bright, helping people, doing what we do because we love helping people rather than doing it just to get a paycheck.
Amen.
That's another one.
It's true though. I do think we've lost that. So before we wrap up, I do want to say thank you both so much for coming on today. It's been great as always. I definitely look at Calvin's t-shirt and I'm like, I really want his hoodie. Please join us. Remember, you can go on to Raise Up, sign up with us so that you can get a newsletter so that you know what the situation is with WTM live event. It is coming. It is happening. 2 out of 3 of us will be on site. Calvin will be coming in as part of a hybrid. So make sure you are part of this conversation as well. We can't wait to meet everybody in person. This has been nearly 20 months like no other. We've all been locked in. We haven't been able to sit with each other. So it's going to be very, very exciting to see everyone. Next week, we are back. We are talking about the human behind hospitality. Check out the polls that we'll be running next week. We're going to be all talking about, the situation with hospitality, not just about hiring, but also about the education, the training, what needs to change. We're going to have Professor Deirdre Kern on the call, who is a phenomenal lady. I'll actually post the article that she wrote recently enough as part of her findings that we're going to have this conversation, and we're going to be continuing on again on the 3rd of November. So thank you so much. See you guys next week at 1 o'clock on LinkedIn Live. I'm an
2 o'clock would be awesome. I can sleep a little longer. 2 o'clock. Vote for 2 o'clock.
believe